and welcome to another episode of Guidelines to Not Sucking at Video Reviewing. Now, in the first three episodes, we just talked about the general outline of your reviews, but now we're going to put that on paper with today's subject, scripting. While scripting is obviously a requirement for films, plays, and most TV shows that matter, scripting is merely an option for video reviews. It is something I, however, endorse completely, as scripting your reviews keeps them leaner, more efficient, and you won't have to worry about forgetting anything quite as much. But more importantly, there is nothing that takes me out of a video review more than hearing and snuggle pops. What? Observe one of my own vlogs. The newer cast of characters represents the remake aspect, whereas the older cast represents the older ones and who's better. But otherwise, if you're not into the Scream movies, you should definitely avoid it. Yeah, I would hate my own vlogs. If you took all those uhs, and snuggle pops out of the review, think of how much time you could save. People are willing to watch long reviews as long as they have substance, which those pauses lack, unless they are intentional and comical. Now, what exactly is scripting? It's writing exactly what you want to say on paper, like this. This is pretty much what scripting looks like for me. I number the points, which keeps me organized in case I make a mistake, so I can start from one of those. I put a dash right before I intend to say something on screen, and I often change the color of the text when I make a sudden break from voiceover and appear on screen for a moment for just pretty much a word or a facial expression. This is not just writing a grocery list worth of notes. It might keep you a little more organized than having no notes whatsoever, but you can still get lost in your own words. What I like about scripting is that it keeps your information cohesive, crisp and clear, easy to follow, but at the same time it keeps your humor more smooth, easy to remember. I mean, there's nothing worse than trying to think of a joke while you're saying it. I mean, that just, well, kind of like this part of the review, which clearly wasn't scripted. Now remember Vaulting, hosted by Morgels? I'm going to use that as an example. I reviewed it earlier in the season and pretty much came to the conclusion that he's a decent reviewer, but the lack of scripting makes room for a lot of padding, which kind of takes away from the general impact. Morgels recently showed me his first scripted review, which was of Lord of the Flies, and it was easily his best review yet. It was amusing, his points were crisp, and the pacing was tight. Everything I love about scripting could be found in that review. I'm actually going to put a link to that review in my description, in case you want to watch it yourself. I think it's a great review. I'd give it a 3.5 out of 4 stars, probably. I haven't really watched any of his reviews since then, so I don't know if he's kept up with that, but at least that review is great, and I better really start catching up on things. But using Morgels again, there is a flip side. I'm going to quote William Cardno's brilliant post in response to my unfavorable comparison to the Nostalgia Critic. One thing that I would have said about the differences between the two is that Vaulting's more off-the-cuff approach really illustrates the difference between him and NC. NC feels like a show. It has a certain production value to it and characters. Vaulting, especially in the first season, feels like you're in a room with a guy who is talking about something that interests him. And, end quote, there. That's just another one of those things that really could go both ways, but it addresses the scripting criticism you may have. Some people just prefer vlogs, whereas other people prefer vlogs when they're more just a side note. Like, for example, Brad Jones and the Cinema Snob. If the vlogs were his main show, people probably wouldn't watch them as much. But people enjoy learning about Brad himself, so watch the vlogs. I have no objection to that. And in fact, I even enjoy those kinds of vlogs. But for main show reviews, I prefer scripting, which once again is ironic because I'm clearly not scripting this scene. Another downside about scripting is that it can make you sound rather robotic. So while it is a preference for me, it is not something that everybody agrees with. Hell, if Morgels fans prefers non-scripted reviews, he should listen to them, as he reviews for them, not me. So my advice, just do what you think is best. Maybe test the waters a bit. Try doing a vlog style review, or try fully scripting one. Listen to the feedback you get and go from there. Just remember to make sure you look at your stuff objectively. Don't pull an M. Night and presume that just because you make it, it is something great and awesome. But I would like to remind you that very few people can pull off vlog style reviews successfully. So at least try to script your videos at least once and see what happens. So that's that. My name is Marshall Har, and I'm here to tell you that those who cannot do, critique.